Hi everyone, it is Heather with Rose Hill Paper Cottage, and today we are going to make a mini Bella journal. So I had so many requests for it, so here we are. We're going to make this cutie today. So the first thing you do is you go into your digitals, right? Now you don't have to use the Bella kit, but that's the one I'm going to be using today. So I'm going to find the Bella kit. And then all my images come up. So I'm going to select 9 of these. So you just click in that box of whichever images you want. I did not watch the video of the previous mini Bella journal, so I'm just selecting, the images that I want to use. So I do think it probably varies from that, but this just shows you it doesn't matter. You don't even have to use this Bella kit. You could use a different kit and do this exact same thing. So I just want to pick 9 images, and so I select them all by using the left click on the mouse. And then I'm going to choose my last image, I think here, right there. And then I'm going to right click. I'm going to get off that arrow, but just in one of those blue boxes, and then it's going to open up another window. Now, before my computer did an update, the window just popped up for the print, but now I have this like extra special, little screen. So I'll show you that it's like at the very bottom, I've got some other options, and right there, show more options. So you may actually get this screen, which is what I normally get to click print. So when you click on print, let me move this a little bit closer. There we go. Just, one of the images is going to pop up there. There's the paper size, and I'm going to show you what it looks like with letter. It obviously gets a little bit wider. So off to the side are all these different options. So wallet shows that there would be 9. So if you only chose one image, and then you put that you wanted like 9 copies of each, then you would get 9 to go on the page of the exact same. But I'm having all different images, so I won't change that copies, but I'm just showing you what it looks like with an A4 size and a regular size. Whatever you print these out doesn't really matter. Just double check that fit picture to frame, just to make sure on whatever digital kit that you're using that you're not skipping out on some of the image that you may want to have. For me, it's not going to matter. So you can select different, qualities. You could go into the further options to change up that quality. There's the paper type. I'm going to use an A4 size, and I just want the one copy because it's going to print all 9 of those that you see there on one page. So here we are. And I may have selected some different images. I don't know when I went to print. So I printed on this, like beigey, creamy colored paper. And it is like a children's drawing pad. Now, I would say this is very similar to construction paper. Just like the slight texture of it and the quality of it, it's very construction paper like. But you can print on any paper, so whatever paper you want. But this is what I originally printed on when I made the very first mini Bella journal, and I'm just choosing it again. It says natural white. I would not classify this as natural white. This is very, very creamy colored to me. So because I'm printing on this creamy colored paper, you're going to see that the digital prints aren't as vivid. So if you want something more accurate, more bright, then print on white. In the end, it's really not going to matter. So I'm just showing just the variation of having kind of a more aged look. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to tear all of these apart, and I'm just going to use a ruler to just go around all of it. You can cut, you can be more precise about this, whatever you want to do, but I'll just use a ruler and I'll just tear all these pieces so that I've got all that border off of there. You could actually even leave the border part on if you wanted to make kind of like just a little bit of a slightly larger journal. So totally up to you what you want to do. And then I fold the majority of them in half, but you don't have to. You can kind of just choose based on the image, like how you want to fold it in the actual journal itself, just like doing a big journal. There's really no difference with doing a smaller journal other than just you feel like you've got like another dozen fingers is all. Everything is really tiny and really small. And then I just kind of start pairing up what pages I want, which way I want them to go, just like doing a larger journal. So I'm going to use this as my center image. And so I'm offsetting it a little bit because I think the original journal had like a pocket in the center. And I'm just going to replicate that here just so you can see how I'm going to, make this pocket come to life, basically. And this is all like really just fiddly, your own personal preference. I just kind of go back and forth of, what I want where, and all that sort of thing. And it's going to even end up different by the time I go to do it. So I'm pulling some of the original, I'm down to like scraps on this. I don't have a lot of this left over. But this is a perfect way to use up scraps, both with paper and with fabrics that you have. So I'm just, replicating this journal, and I have a piece here, and I just kind of roughly cut it to the size I think I'll need. And then I've just pulled some assorted paper scraps that I happen to have, some embossed papers. And then if you watched the video where I had made those tiny letter charms, then I've pulled those too. I have those left over as well, and it's perfect for, miniature type projects. Another thing is like some different like sari, lace, all that sort of stuff. If you want to, add pockets or, whatever, you'll see how I go about, doing all of that. But really, you can do this however you want to, just like doing any other kind of journal. So basically what I did, there's a couple different ways you could do this. If you don't want so much thickness within the spine of folding the papers, then you could actually tear the image apart and then just kind of separate it a little bit so you don't have as much bulk in the center, especially if you're going to add a bunch of pages. I wouldn't recommend doing this particular method, but I'm not using that many pages. So I'm just gluing, the fronts, and well, how can I say it? I'm gluing the images with the wrong sides together. There we go. Got it. And then here's where I'm creating that pocket. So I'm just adding a little bit of like music page, like the border part where, it's mostly neutral. I'm just going to sneak that in there and then, just glue up the sides. Now there is some like sewing that I end up doing, but you don't have to have a sewing machine to do all that. And you can hand stitch too if you want to, but I will incorporate a little bit of, stitching with a machine. So again, I am gluing this directly to another image and then folding over that part to make like a little side pocket. And the same thing here, I'm going to glue an image to the other side of this one. But again, this does make that center section, thicker. So for the inside of the cover, I'm basically just going to create like a front pocket and a back pocket. And I just decided to just use some brown packaging paper for stability. So I glued my image to that, and I'm going to double up the packaging paper just, to make it a little bit stronger. Again, back it whatever you want to. You can do this part however, suits you. You could stitch it all on if you want to. I didn't do that. I don't believe I even did that in the original one either. That's what's great about junk journaling. It is, I think, quite forgiving, because it doesn't need to be perfect. Now you can make things as perfect as you want to. That's not my thing. So here you can see where I have decided to kind of just take a couple of the different images and just glue them to the other side of the other image spread that I'm using, if that makes sense. So then it's not as bulky on that center. So very similar, you could do all of this like this, the entire journal, so that it's a lot thinner within the spine area. I've probably said that like a bazillion times, but sometimes I'm not sure if me explaining it is clear enough. It is in my mind, but maybe I'm not explaining it completely well. But I think you understand what I'm going for there, what I'm trying to say. So right here, I didn't really like how you could just see snippets of the other page. Now, sometimes that lays out really, really well, and maybe if I would have paired my pages a little bit better, I could have. So I'm just going to add some more texture. I mean, texture is never bad. So I just have this embossed image that I probably didn't use in a different project from an envelope, and I'm just going to glue it on top there. So again, it's not overlapping into that spine area, the fold, and so it's not going to create extra bulk in there. So I'm thinking about the different fabrics that I want to, I believe I did this in the original as well. But I can't really quite decide yet on which one. So I'm going to kind of move on from that and think about it. So I'm going to create my pocket. So I just kind of, doubled up a piece of sari ribbon. And I think it turned out great. And I did stitch this on. So it had this like fun stitch already where it was combined. And then I just stitched underneath it. And then I'm using a little bit of ink on the other side so that it doesn't stand out so much, so that your eye is kind of drawn to where the two saris are kind of like stitched to each other. I hope that makes sense. I think sometimes watching and not listening is just better. It speaks for itself. So I've glued that down. And then I'll come back to this fabric piece that I'm going to use. And then I just use a glue stick to adhere that. You could absolutely stitch it in place. I could have done that before I added that other image on the other side, or you can even go through both images, whatever you want to do. But a glue stick works great, just for adhering things. Now on the back, I'm going to use the packaging paper again for my back pocket. And I'll use the front one to kind of like measure so that, they're kind of similar in size. And then I will stitch that on. So there it is stitched. And then I'm going to glue this in place. And then I really liked the way that the embossed packaging paper looked on the front. So I'm going to add some of that to the front once I get this glued down. This is different than the original one, but that's what's so great about it. I just kind of go with the flow. Again, I didn't watch the video, but I don't recall doing this. So it's already starting to come together and just look super cute. So I have this image left over, and I thought, you know what? I'll make a tag with this. And so I've torn it in half, and then I'm going to glue it in half. And then I'm going to make it even just a little bit smaller. It feels a little bit wide for kind of like the scale of what a tag should be in a smaller, mini journal. See, it's like all fingers. I mean, everything is just super tiny, and then it doesn't help when you have glue on your fingers for days. I'm constantly covered with glue on my fingers. So I end up deciding to do this like little corner tuck instead. And I just stitch along the top because I didn't want to, like really ruin the other image on the other side with a bunch of stitching so close to the edge. So I just glued that edge part. And then I'll go ahead and I'll use this piece and make a tag. I am off to the side a lot on this. When I just get into the flow of just creating, I don't really realize or pay attention sometimes to like where I'm at. So, it just is what it is. I think you understand. I should try to be better about that in the future. So there's my cute little tag. So I'm just kind of playing around with some of the pieces of where I think, things should go. But I do, I have more to show, but there will be like a flip through of the whole thing at the very end. So you'll be able to see exactly like how things kind of ended up. Oh, and on that front pocket, I didn't actually stitch it along the bottom. So I guess it's really kind of like a belly band in a way. It looks like a pocket. So it could be glued later on, but I didn't actually glue it. Here's another little baby tag that I'm going to make. Well, that I am making. And I have this teeny tiny little punch, but you could also use an awl or a safety pin or a needle, whatever to make like the hole. Even the needle in the sewing machine, you could pierce it that way too. I just love how it's coming together. It's really so cute. So I'm going to take one of those miniaturized letters I did, and I'm just going to glue that to the front. Because believe it or not, there is, some blank areas in here to still like journal or, put something in there. There's lots of different ways to still journal and things, even though they look busy or they're, it seems like such a small area. But really, you just have to think creatively about what you can do. So I'm just kind of showing how I added one of the plain, natural white pages in there and how I'm going to kind of decorate it with just some of my scraps. So this is an old piece of ledger that I'll put on one side of this. And then I have some book page, I think a dictionary page scrap on this other side. And it just kind of breaks it up so that it's not all just completely all digitals. Not that that's a bad thing. It's just, just adds different interest. That's all. So I'm thinking I'll add half of this blue, but I don't think I put it there. I kind of think I leave that neutral. I'm kind of, trying to think about in advance of where the ruffles might go. And the way I do the ruffles is I just cut the normal size sari in half. And it just blends in. See, it looks great, I think. So I'm showing here how I just kind of line up my book page, my miniature book page, and how I just add the sari in there. Now you want to go slow with this. And the way I kind of feed that sari, because it's just so tiny, is I use my seam ripper. You can also use an awl, but be very careful. It would not be good if you got your, piece of metal underneath where the needle is. That could be dangerous. So just be really careful and go slow. I think I have this sped up slightly. So I did go, very, very slow when I was doing that, just because it's easy to kind of go too quickly when you're doing, small things, miniature things. But that's basically, how simple that is just running a stitch. I don't even back stitch, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. For this, I did not. So now I'm going to show how I bind it. Really, the only thing to keep in mind is if you want your kind of like your bow or your tie on the outside or the inside. So I've just lined this all up, and you could also use like clothespins or clips or something like that to keep everything straight. But I like to just, take my chances after I've spent all this work, doing this and just winging it here. So if you were going to tie on the outside, then you would just want to go through each of the holes, but I'll have to come through on the back side of that. And it's kind of hard to see with this type of fabric because like your hole disappears, but it's relatively a quick process. And I'm just doing a 2-hole. I mean, you could do 3. It just all depends on how, big your journal is. This is not all that serious of a journal. It's very small and tiny. So 2 is enough for me here. And then I just knot it. I'm using hemp cord here. You could use embroidery thread, whatever you've got. Any kind of string, really. Again, this is just a very small little, project. So I think I'm just going to use jute to tie it. Can't remember what I tied the original with, but I hope you enjoy this little flip through of this entire journal. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me below. But, really a lot of this is all self-explanatory. It's just making miniaturized versions of the real, like large journal that we all, love to make. So have a great day, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Bye-bye.